What is going on, guys? It's Cameron and welcome back to Ultimate Spider-Man issue 64. This is what I'm going to be reviewing today, and I finally finished university. I have finished for the summer, so pretty much I can go back to making 2 videos a day like it used to be, now that I have like this crazy amount of free time. So yeah, look out for 2 videos a day, pretty much almost every day except for today, because tonight I'm going watching Captain America Civil War and I cannot wait. I'm so excited, and I'll probably make a video about it, maybe a review, or maybe just like giving my thoughts on it or something like that. But I cannot wait, and I think I'm going to see it in about an hour and a half. So by the time this video is uploaded, I would have probably already seen the movie. So if you follow me on Twitter, then you can watch me freak out about it on Twitter, and I'll most likely backflip through the roof when I see Spider-Man. But anyway, going back to this review and this comic, in the previous issue we saw Carnage turn up outside Peter Parker's house. Dr. Curt Connors was there, and pretty much a face-off was about to happen between Peter Parker and Carnage. So that's what we're going to see play out, and maybe a little bit more. So guys, without further ado, let's jump into this review, and let's get on with it. So of course, like always, the issue picks up directly from where the previous issue left off, and we're directly outside, well, I've just said directly like twice, but whatever, we're directly outside Peter's house. Carnage is there, Dr. Curt Connors is there, and I love how confused like everybody is. Like Carnage is just there like trying to figure out how to form into like this random character that kind of looks like Peter Parker, and then you've got Dr. Curt Connors and Peter Parker freaking out at what they are seeing, because what you've got to remember is that last time Dr. Curt Connors saw this, it wasn't exactly Carnage, it was literally like some random thing in a test tube. So Dr. Curt Connors doesn't exactly know what he's looking at right now, but I have to say Carnage is so scary. Like, the artwork that Mark Bagley's put into Carnage just looks phenomenal, and his eyes and his mouth are just like, they're just so awesome. Something that I still think is brilliant about Peter Parker as a character is that even though we're 70 issues into Ultimate Spider-Man almost, he still has that urge to save people even though he hates them. For example, Dr. Curt Connors is like the worst person in his eyes right now. Like, Peter says that if he doesn't find a cure to kill this thing, then he's going to put Carnage in the room with Dr. Curt Connors and lock them in. But still, Peter Parker protects Dr. Curt Connors. And I just find it really interesting how he still carries that thing about with great power comes great responsibility, and obviously he's the only one that can probably fight Carnage, and so he takes it upon himself to do that and protect everybody else. But one thing that I kind of have a little bit of a gripe about with this comic is that we don't necessarily get too much Carnage. Like, I'm going to be honest with you guys, this little story arc with Carnage is a very brief story arc. Like, it's not necessarily a main villain type of thing, it's more like something that just pops up and it has some future effect in the future of the comics, like around issue 120. Like, I would very much like to see Carnage in the Ultimate Spider-Man comics a lot more than what we see him, because obviously you guys haven't got to that point yet, but he's actually in it quite briefly, so just prepare yourselves for that. Now, going back into the comic at hand, you see these 2 police officers just get murdered straight up in the street whilst they're eating these donuts, and I think one thing that hits you emotionally there is that these guys are just doing their job, just eating donuts, not expecting to die tonight. And the worst part is that Peter can't necessarily do anything about it, and you just see Peter Parker watching on as these 2 police officers have the life force sucked out of them. And I think if you put yourself in that situation, like as you're reading the comic, if you really engross yourself in that situation, it really does hit you right there in the feels, because these 2 innocent guys have just been ripped out of life by this symbiote thing that shouldn't even exist. So obviously Peter's going to feel the guilt for that, and I feel like that's kind of expected, because we know that Peter tends to blame everything on himself. He tends to take up too much responsibility, so I feel like that's something that makes Peter Parker Spider-Man, and that's pretty awesome I suppose, but it has its drawbacks. Okay, going back over to what's happening on screen, this is where it gets a little bit confusing. Peter tells Dr. Curt Connors that Carnage's face became his father's face, which is a little bit weird, but one thing that I do love about the comic is that instead of it being like a linear storyline where Peter fights the bad guy and then goes to Dr. Curt Connors, he's actually shown being at Dr. Curt Connors' lab first and, you know, surviving it and getting rid of Carnage, etc., saying it's done, and then we have like a little bit of a flashback where Peter's talking about how it happened and what happened, and that's really interesting from a storytelling perspective, especially for Brian Michael Bendis, because he tends to mix it up a little bit, and that's so awesome for him to do that. It kind of keeps the comic a little bit fresh, and you know, you don't get bored as easily and everything. But I think what Peter's trying to say is that when this thing became his father, that was like something personal to him, you know, like he knows that his father has been like dead for years and years, so for this thing to become his father, it kind of made something click in his head, and I feel like this is going to be one of those things that actually scars Peter for life. Like, yeah, he's been up against loads of bad guys, but I think this is something that's actually going to scar him for life, because not only has this thing killed Gwen, it's also become some form of himself. Like, it's kind of become Peter Parker, but it's also become the memories of Peter Parker. Now, something that we're seeing on screen right now is something that I genuinely believe makes me respect Dr. Kirk Connors, and actually makes you realize that he's not actually a bad guy. He's just someone that's had a load of crappy mistakes, and he's been in the wrong situations at the wrong times, and just basically life has not been good to him. But I have so much respect for him, you know, obviously owning up to the responsibility that he had. And I like how he says that he accidentally killed these people, because in all honesty, he kind of did. Like, he didn't have to do that. Like, I have so much respect for Dr. Kirk Connors that he owned up to that and he took responsibility for that. Now, of course, he had an assistant, Ben Reilly, who's actually the real person that's like the suspect in this, in my opinion, because he seems like he has a little bit more knowledge on what was going on with it, and he seems a little bit of a shady guy. And of course, this is confirmed now as we get towards the end of the issue. We see Ben Reilly kind of sneak past the police, kind of get some stuff from his locker, and it turns out that there's a second sample of the Carnage symbiote, of Peter Parker's blood, ready to remake the Carnage symbiote, the subject, whatever it is. And of course, that's going to come up later on in the Ultimate Spider-Man series, around issue 120 or earlier, if I remember. But now that it's the summer, and now that I've finished university and I can do 2 videos a day, we can blast through this Ultimate Spider-Man series and get on with it. Now guys, that is it for this issue. What did you think? Let me know in the comment section below. And also, don't forget to let me know what you thought of Captain America Civil War without spoiling anything, please, because obviously, actually, most of you guys are actually in America and it's not out over there yet. So I guess I'm going to be like, I wouldn't say the only one that's seen it, but I think a majority of you guys probably wouldn't have seen the movie yet. So why don't you just let me know which character you're looking forward to most on screen, maybe? Like Black Panther or Spider-Man or something, I don't know. But yeah, so guys, that is it for this issue. That is it for this review. Let me know what you thought. Hit the subscribe button on this video, hit the like button, and also I'm going to be giving away some comic codes on my Twitter again later tonight, so you can go to my Twitter, the link is in the description, follow me on there, look out for those. Now as for this comic, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10, like even though it was awesome, I feel like Carnage's story arc was just so brief. Like seriously, Carnage is basically gone now for like 60 issues. So I think I would have preferred if it was stretched out a little more, but then again, if it did get stretched out to maybe 3 or 4 issues, then it might have gotten a little boring. So maybe that's something that Brian Michael Bendis thought about, so I'm going to give him props for that, but still, 7 out of 10. And of course, I think we know that Peter Parker isn't necessarily going to give up being Spider-Man. Like, something always drags him back. But it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out in the future of the comics. But until then, guys, we're going to have to wait and see. So for this week, I think I'm going to be catching up on all of the other comics I missed. So you know, like the Amazing Spider-Man, All New All Different Avengers, Spider-Man 2099, Invincible Iron Man, and all that stuff. But yeah, guys, so that is it for this video. So I guess I will see you guys later.